Have you ever thought about manifesting and how powerful that it can be? Have you got plans and goals that you want to achieve this year and need a little kickstart to get there? Why not listen to the podcast, The Power of Manifesting, the Flip Flop Family podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Flip Flop Family podcast. I'm Zylene and thank you so much for choosing this podcast to listen to today. It's been a great week. The sun has been shining. I hope you've had a lovely week also. The clocks have gone forward, so we've got a lighter, brighter day, which really does make a massive difference. I had the privilege of interviewing a chef that I've mentioned before on this podcast. Her name is Dina Maki, and she's an Omani Zanzibarian chef, which is definitely very unique. She actually has the first ever Omani cookbook out on the market called Bahari. Check it out. I haven't cooked any of her dishes yet, I have to say, but when I interviewed her, she mentioned a dish called kabuli, which is like kind of boiled cooked meat with rice, and then it has like a layer of chickpeas as well. It sounds great, so I will definitely make it soon and pop it up on our Flip Flop Family kitchen page on Instagram. But one of the questions, or one of the things that we talked about, was how she became a chef. And she actually said that when she was younger and was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? It wasn't to be a chef. And she just wanted to be in sort of the fashion world, but that didn't work out for her, or she didn't like the fashion world, and then just wanted to be in anything corporate. And then at university kind of stumbled across her love for cooking when everybody enjoyed what she was making, and kind of went on from there. But it got me thinking, as we have a nearly 10-year-old and a nearly 13-year-old, and Emiliana is in year 8, and next year in year 9 she'll need to make her choices for GCSE, which means she'll only be 13 when she's making those choices. And it just seems so young to have to make choices like that, between geography and history, or choosing media, or I still call it home economics, but I think she calls it food tech, or design technology, or textiles. I just think it's so hard to decide at that age what you like and what you want to be. And so I was looking into sort of what children want to be when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there was this study that was done by Reed. It was really interesting to see what this group of children said. The top 5 dream jobs for girls was, in this study, vet, teacher, engineer, doctor, baker. And top 5 dream jobs for boys was footballer, inventor, policeman, builder, and engineer. And I just found that really interesting if you think about it. I mean, I loved that there was engineer in there for girls, because that's, I would say, probably a bit of a change from over the years. But when you look at that girls list, like a vet, a lot of people have pets, so the likelihood is they would have come across a vet. Teacher, of course, every day. Doctor, definitely. And most people have someone in the household that likes to bake, or they enjoy sweet treats or baked goods. So that kind of all makes sense that they may have come across those different occupations. Engineer is, I love that, because I feel like engineering perhaps was more male dominated, and it's great to see that girls are interested in that. And boys, football are number 1. And most boys, I would say, would take part in football at school, whether they have a club on the weekend or whether they have a parent who's really into football. Most boys play football, and girls. My daughter, plays football now and played football when she was younger. But this was a study for younger kids, I think, between the ages of 7 and 10. So football is part of their daily life at school. It's played in the playground all the time. It's a very easy sport to get involved in because you just need something to kick around. In my house, Ben is constantly kicking around folded socks. Literally put socks in a ball, and it's used as a football in my house, often knocking down my gorgeous plants and my photo frames. But that's a podcast for another day. Inventor, again, I can understand the kind of creative side of that. Policeman, a lot of the boys said that they liked the idea of driving in a car with flashing lights. Again, I have loads of friends that have little boys, and they're all obsessed with cars or trucks and that kind of stuff. Builder, again, it tends to be a typically male. I mean, I'm a self-made builder and I'm a female, but typically it tends to be a male thing. And of course, engineering again. But you don't see or hear things in that group, and I think probably amongst other children, not just in this study, you don't hear of the vast variety of occupations that there are out there. Those ones just seem to be occupations that they have come across in their childhood. That's when I really thought to myself, what do my kids want to be? Emiliana wants to be a baker, which was one of those, and also an actress. And Zach would like to be a boxer. So again, it's not footballer, but it's up there kind of in the athletes sort of category. I just think that as parents, we need to make sure that we're exposing our children to as many things as we possibly can. In that study, a very small percentage didn't actually know what their parents do, but they knew what they loved and what they didn't like about their jobs, because they're hearing everything, right? So when you come home and you're saying, oh, my boss is like awful and I can't get the holiday off because everyone in my department has kids, so everybody wants the time off for half term or Easter holidays. Kids are hearing this stuff, so they may not remember or know what you do for a living, but they'll know what you love and don't like about your jobs. With Easter approaching, Zach's school has released the clubs for the summer term, and there's things in there like athletics, tennis, cricket, chess, debate, rounders, amongst so many other things. And Zach wants to do them all. So he wants to go to every single club pretty much, as well as he does gymnastics outside of school and acting. So there is a lot that boy is doing. And sometimes I think it's too much, like he needs some chill out time, but he loves it. And now that I'm talking about what you want to be when you grow up, actually, the best thing that we can do is broaden our children's horizons. So giving them access and exposing them to as many different things as possible, helping them to explore their passions and allowing them to seek guidance if there's something that they really love. Like Zach loves table tennis. He plays every single day in the playground and he's got really good. But if his school didn't have that in the playground, he may not have had the opportunity to know that he was good at it. As parents, we have the biggest influence over our children. Our household is always crazy, as Ben and I are both commercial actors as well, and I'm a presenter obviously. So we're always doing auditions at home, whether it's me or Ben. I mean, today I've had to do an audition with a Indian accent, which was interesting, sending that one off. But our kids are exposed to this kind of stuff all the time. And there are loads of stats out there which suggest that there is a percentage of children that would follow in their parents' footsteps. Like apparently nurses' daughters are more likely to follow their parents' footsteps. Scientists' fathers are more likely to have scientist daughters. Mothers who work in law are more likely to have sons with legal careers. And twins have the biggest tendency to choose the same occupation. Funnily enough, although me and my sister are actually 5 years apart, we both have the same occupation. We're both occupational therapists, but she actually did it as a master's after me. And her reasoning was that she thought I looked pretty happy in my job. So she was like, I'll give that a go. I guess if you are in a certain profession, it is easier to get your children in to get some work experience for them to see what it's like. Or if you feel that it's been a great career for you, you might want to encourage your children to go down that same path. But I was really surprised from that study that more children didn't say they want to be famous or they don't just want to be YouTubers. I think there was a stage when both our kids, that's what they wanted to be when they grew up, because when they watch those YouTube videos of kids who have got loads of followers, living in big houses and unboxing like cool things every day and going to fun places, they think that is achievable and they want to do that. And of course it is achievable. Thankfully, there are some really good things about social media and YouTube, and sky's the limit where you don't have to be born into money and you can actually make a lot of money from those avenues. I remember doing work experience when I was in secondary school, and I decided to do it at a special needs school for children. I always knew that I wanted to work with children. I definitely remember wanting to actually be a vet and a teacher and an Indian dancer. I do remember wanting to be those three professions. I love children, especially because I'm the youngest of three. I was always desperate for my mum to have another child because I wanted a little sibling to look after, but that never happened. So I always had this desire to work with children, look after children. And so I believe my sister did work experience there. So I then went and did work experience at this school local to me. And I absolutely loved it. And in the end did go down that route in terms of becoming an occupational therapist, because I worked in pediatrics for a very long time and still do work with children. So that's kind of how I ended up with that career. But I just think that doing that at secondary school is quite late. I almost feel like in primary school or in the very early stages of secondary, like year 7 and 8, there should be more discussions about careers, about what you're interested in, and allowing children to go and observe in different workplaces and not just the typical ones. They should be allowed. I think there should be some sort of scheme where they can choose like the top 5 areas that they think they'd like to work in, and organizing for them to go, because that kind of work experience, hands-on, even if it's just for a day, you never forget it. Like I remember in primary school, my school doing this kind of initiative where we did a school swap. So 5 of us were selected to go to this Japanese school. I'm not sure where it was in London. I'm sure it was in London somewhere, but we went to this Japanese school and I still remember it to this day. Like I loved it. I thought it was so cool because their lessons were different to ours. They did calligraphy, I believe, like drawing letters with these quills, like their kind of Japanese alphabet and stuff. And I just thought it was amazing. But when you do something out of the ordinary at school, you just don't forget it. I often offer up advice to my friends' kids who are in their GCSE stage or A-level stages. I always offer them up advice, even though they don't ask me. And I just say to them, instead of asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up? The question I ask is, what lifestyle do you want to have when you grow up? So do you want to do a 9 to 5, or do you want to have a job that allows you to travel, or do you want to have a really sociable job? Do you see yourself settling down and having a big house, or do you want to drive nice cars? Do you plan on going lots of holidays? Because let's be real, there are so many different occupations out there, and it may be that the one that you're most passionate about is not going to give you the lifestyle that you want. If you can try and figure out what sort of lifestyle you want to live, you should be able to work your way backwards to then find sort of a pool of careers that would allow you that lifestyle and choose from them. Sometimes I think that we do it the wrong way around. Like growing up, I never wanted to have my own business because my dad had his own business and both my parents worked a lot. And so we didn't see them a lot because it was their own business. They didn't have staff. So it was just the 2 of them. And then funnily enough, Ben ended up having his own business when Emiliana was born. But thankfully, he is very flexible and he's not tied down to like a premises. So luckily, we see Ben loads and he's able to be very involved with the children. But I was very put off having my own business in the traditional sense, like my parents had a shop, because of that. Sometimes I wonder if us doing a self-build and renovating over the last 2 to 3 years might have had the opposite effect, and Emiliana and Zach might be a bit scarred and never want to do DIY themselves, but I really hope not. So what can we do to help our children to make the right decisions, or just open their eyes to broaden their horizons? Firstly, self-reflection and exploration. So identifying interests and values, allowing them to take part in activities that they really love, do subjects that they find fascinating, and also find out what values are important to them. Like for me, helping others, especially children, was something that was really important to me. But it could be creativity, it could be problem solving, whatever it is that is important to them. Exploring hobbies and extracurricular activities, as we did mention, letting them do as many things as you possibly can, like horse riding or gymnastics, taking them to the library. They do so many amazing things at the library. Like my kids were brought up going to the library and taking part in workshops there. Seek feedback. So asking feedback from teachers and mentors and family members about what they think your strengths are or potential career paths. Gaining experience and knowledge. As I said, work experience I think is the best thing. So if you can't get it through school, perhaps volunteer work, part-time jobs can give you valuable insight into industries and roles, internships, shadowing, so spending time with professionals in fields that interest them to see what their daily routines are like, what their challenges are, and if that's something that they would like to do. Career fairs and events are really good. So attending different industry conferences, networking events. I kind of thought networking was a bit overrated, I have to say. Like when I've been trying to get back into media over the years, people have always said, make sure you're networking. And I was just like, oh, that sounds so long. I have to say that I recently restarted my LinkedIn account and I'm a bit obsessed. Like I think I go on LinkedIn more than I go on any other social media. I absolutely love it because you're sharing things that you're doing in your career and you can have connections with like-minded people and really build those connections with people. So I think LinkedIn is actually an amazing resource to use. Using family and friends, so being really open and communicating with family and friends, they can give you really valuable perspectives and also encouragement. Or perhaps you have family that might be in certain fields that your kids are interested in. Embrace flexibility and adaptability. Don't rush the decision because finding the right career path takes time. So encourage your kids to explore different options and be open to change. And things are just so different now. Like before, you might only do one career in your lifetime. Now you could do 5, 6, 7 different careers in your lifetime. So you don't really have to be fixed on just one thing, but just focus on skills and abilities. So rather fixating on that job title, really emphasize developing transferable skills and abilities that can be applied to different careers. And be open to new opportunities, encouraging your teens to be open to new experiences and opportunities that can lead them to unexpected career paths. Like when I've been looking on LinkedIn, I've come across so many things and they're not necessarily what I want to do. But when I read the job description and the skills required, I think, oh, actually, I do have transferable skills that I could use. And this information in this podcast is not just for people who have children in their life, but I'm in my very early 40s, and a lot of my friends who are in a similar age group to me, who have been doing the same career for like 20 years, they're bored of their careers. They're a bit done in, like they know it like the back of their hand, and it's still stressful, or they're just not getting out from it what they wanted, or maybe they've got the most they can get out of it and they need a change of career. So I hope these things are helpful to you if you are a person like that in that boat. That's definitely me. I mean, I've been an occupational therapist for 20 years and I'm very keen to get back into media because that's where my passion lies. I would say don't say no to anything. I still remember that day when I went to go and meet Ben, and he was on this community radio station called Street Life FM that was in Walthamstow, and he was doing a show with Shizio, his friend, and he said, oh, come on babe, like come on the show with me. And I'd never done that before, but I just jumped straight on with him, and there was a mentor there from the BBC and he was like, oh, you guys are really good, and it kind of went from there. But if I said no, oh, I've never been on radio before, I've never tried that before, I may not have realised just how much I love it. I think you grow the most when you put yourself out there in an uncomfortable situation outside of your comfort zone. That's when you grow the most, and that's when you can build the most character. There has been times when Emiliana has received briefs from her agent for certain jobs and she's not sure about it. Maybe she doesn't feel that confident if she's having to do something on her own. But after a little pep talk, she's usually up for giving it a go. And she's never done something and wished that she hadn't. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When she hasn't got jobs where she was unsure about at the start, she's then gutted and really wants to do it. So I guess push yourself, push your children, and you never know what you might achieve. This week's game changer is in the form of hair removal. Yes, it's something called Flawless, and I was very skeptical about this as growing up as kind of an Indian kid in an Indian household. It was all about threading and waxing, but I came across this and looked into it a bit more, and this technology is called butterfly technology, and it basically erases hairs by microscopically paring them down to the surface of the skin. So there's no blades in it. It doesn't actually sort of remove the hair like an epilator or a razor or a hot wire or a laser. It's nothing like that. It literally just kind of takes the hair off down to the surface of the skin. Now that may not sound good, but I have to say it's been a bit of a game changer. So Flawless with the butterfly technology for hair removal, if you are partial to a bit of, upper lip hair, or perhaps to do your eyebrows. They do an eyebrow one as well. My dish of the week has got to be a snack, and that is date bars. I've been making lots of different things in the house this week, from little banana flapjacks to these healthy protein Snicker bars, but I really love these date bars. They're made out of oats, a few other ingredients, and of course dates. So check it out on the Flip Flop Family kitchen page. Our savvy tip this week has got to be the Eurostar flash sale. So you can get tickets for £35 per person each way to Paris, Brussels, Lille, Amsterdam and Rotterdam between the dates of 23rd April to the 9th of July. But you must book the tickets by the 3rd of April by 11 p.m. to get that deal. If you are listening to this podcast after that date, I have another savvy tip for you, and it may sound pretty standard, but book your holidays in advance because it just gives you time to pay off your holiday in installments and also count down and look forward to it. I'm definitely going to take that advice because we are so last minute. We often book holidays like in the same week and then leave the following week. So book in advance. And yes, I will be doing that also. The book of the week has got to be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which I've just started reading actually. It's a guide to spiritual enlightenment and it's all about trying to live in the now, and especially good if you're someone who has a lot of weight from things in the past or perhaps worried about things in the future. I think it has beneficial effects for anyone really. So check it out. It's The Power of Now. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Flip Flop Family podcast. I'm Xylene and we do release 2 episodes every single week on a Monday and a Thursday. Please do comment, let us know if you enjoy the content and share with your friends. We'd love if they would have a listen also. Until next time, see you then. Bye. Fancy listening to another episode? Why not check out all about parenting, confidence, promoting healthy eating, self-discipline, or the power of manifesting. And remember, we release 2 episodes every single week on a Monday and a Thursday.